Please help me welcome Shawnee Klein in a speech called Dawn of the Dark Ages. Shawnee.
A mother takes her child, realizes that the world is not a friendly place, places the child into bed, and kisses her goodnight, walks away, and turns out the lights. Hours later, the child wakes. There's a strange sound outside. It's dark. What can that be? She wakes, she's scared. She walks out and she sees it's Snooky on Jersey Shore. That's right. That is a horrifying, dark moment captured in today's society. You know what's interesting, though? If we go back to the Middle Ages, they were known as the Dark Ages. And it's funny, we're almost afraid to call it that now because it's seen as being discriminatory. But if we focus on what the Dark Ages were all of those many years ago, what they really were a time where there was economic recession. It was a time when, in fact, we stopped really progressing and we tucked away things like becoming more educated by sharing knowledge that we had and by doing research. It was a time that was considered dark. But you know, today we have all of this technology. I mean, for goodness sakes, I have a communication device that lights up. So how dark can it really be? Well, let's think about this. You know, when I focus on what is considered light versus dark, sometimes what I like to think about is, are we really moving forward or are we really stepping back? You know, I guess that really just depends on how we look at it. There is this time during the Dark Ages where many people died from the bubonic plague. It was called the epidemic of the age. Guess what our epidemic is today? It is this killer known as depression. Because while we have all of these many friends on Facebook, we're vastly alone. We sometimes feel as though we're surrounded with everyone, yet no one is really there to understand where we're coming from. In a time where we like to think that innovation is keen, we realize actually we aren't even willing to support early childhood education. We would rather focus our dollars and cents on military defense spending. Some $700 billion a year from the U.S. goes into military defense spending, and yet during this moment of sequestration, we're thinking there might not be value in educating our children. The interesting part is, there are generals and majors who have said, we've got a crisis ahead of us, people. We have military technology that our young people are not going to be able to operate. Now let's ask ourselves, is that moving forward into the light, or are we stepping back into the darkness? I would venture to say that possibly if we were to actually look at our children and say, you have value, you are worth the dollars and the cents that it's going to take for us to be able to have a brighter future, that potentially there would be hope that our children could be inspired. Arts, science, music. That is what enlightenment is. But no. We're going to focus on who's right and who's wrong. This is not that different from the Dark Ages. You know, the Dark Ages were moments where really the only type of education that took place was within religion. Everything had moved out of universities and schools made available to the public. So really the only moment that you had was to get a really good education from someone who was going to present it from a spiritual point of view, which was fine. However, I think that we can recognize that if we do not evolve to a place where we can expand our thoughts beyond a single viewpoint, that we will certainly not see the light that is out there, but rather there is a great chance that we will just sink into this very sad, potentially humble abyss of darkness. And so, I guess, when I think about what is enlightenment, what are these beautiful days of moving forward into this future that is potentially full of hope and innovation, I think back to that child. And the only thing that I can say is this: it is certainly forgivable for a child to be afraid of the darkness. Mm-hmm. The real tragedy is when man is afraid to step into the light. Thank you very much.